back to season 2 of Up and Comers of Hollywood. And today's, my first guest of the season is Diana Daydream. She also wrote, produced, sung the Up and Comers jingle that you hear on my podcast and my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So she did all that, and I thank her from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about your journey as a songwriter, producer. Now, you've been in Los Angeles now for a little while, right?
Yeah, 9 years almost.
Okay. What made you come to Los Angeles, and where did you come from?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington, but I encompass a lot of the West Coast because I lived in Portland for 6 years in my early 20s, and then Sacramento for a few years in my early 30s. So yeah, now I've been in Los Angeles for almost 9 years now, and it's so crazy. It's gone by so fast. I kind of somewhat fell into music accidentally. I mean, granted, I think it runs in my family. My grandma played piano and sang. My dad plays guitar. But my next door neighbors, they did a home renovation and they had to clear out one of the rooms they were renovating, which one of those things was a piano. You know, pianos take up a lot of room. And so they asked us if we wouldn't mind storing their piano for them because I might, take an interest to it. So we did. And that is technically where my music journey began. I took piano lessons for 6 years. And then when I became an angsty teenager, and mind you, this was in Seattle in the 90s during the Seattle grunge
Grunge,
scene.
yes.
So I wanted to be able to rock out, and I was having a hard time playing my favorite Nirvana and Pearl Jam songs on the piano. Although now that would be a cool thing, like an acoustic, grunge set. But yeah, I wanted to rock out, and so I started taking guitar lessons. Actually, I didn't take lessons for terribly long, but it's just such a different language, and I was used to being able to just play things by ear on piano, and I couldn't quite sit down and do that, on a guitar. They're so different from each other. But I think that the little experience that I had in the guitar realm still, kind of worked my brain in a different way. But then when I went back to piano, this time it was a little more electronically, because I then busted out. My dad actually had a old school synthesizer keyboard, which I never really played much, growing up because we had the piano. But I started to use the keyboard more. This was now the early 2000s when the house techno scene was re-emerging, and those are the sound. Can't do that on acoustic piano. Again, you can, but that becomes its own thing, right? So yeah, I started to play and write more dance music. Fast forward to what I'm creating now, because it is a medley of dance music.
Do you catch my drift, yeah? More bullshit to sift, yeah, until we can shift gears, connecting dots, putting 2 and 2 together, hot cold like the weather, back and forth we tether, connecting dots, yeah.
Right.
It's kind of everywhere, on Spotify. Where would you
Yeah,
find?
literally on all streaming platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Honestly, the biggest thing so far has just been the undertaking of learning music production, because I always had this innate desire to be, the utmost hands-on with my music. And as much as I love collaborating with other people, where I don't want to have to depend on other people, and the only thing was just learning how to do everything on your own. It is quite the undertaking, and I am not technologically inclined. I would get like debilitating anxiety sitting down in front of my like recording program, and you've got like all these knobs and buttons and wires, and it's very, very intimidating. I'd say I'm like naturally gifted in the music realm, but learning production, not so much. That did not come easily to me, so that did take a lot of work, a lot of dedication, so much tenacity, and so much time, and I let the fear and intimidation of that pursuit stop me actually for years, because I knew it would be a challenge. I knew that it would take a lot of time, and what you resist persists. So it's like the more I kind of kept avoiding it and kept avoiding that innate calling, the longer it took me to, I guess, realize my dreams, and I think it was like you go into protection mode because you don't want to fail. So therefore you don't even try. Someone once told me, you just need to set out to fail, actually. Make that your goal. And like all of a sudden, like everything that I was so in my head about was like reduced down to this little thing. And it was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm like making it, it's such a bigger thing than it needs to be. One more thing that I could add to challenges: listening too much to other people. I can just pinpoint very specific moments in time where, there was once a producer that I expressed my desire to learn production. This was 15 years ago, maybe, before I started self-producing. And he really talked me out of the idea. He was like, you know what? You should just let the producers do what they do. You're a songwriter, singer, you just write the music, and I took his advice. I was like, why am I, like, this guy doesn't even know me, know what sort of like drive or tenacity I have. And I just like look back and I'm like, oh, like, why did I take his advice, And there's just other times too where people have said some not so encouraging things, and it's like, I get that I don't want people to lie to me. Right. I get that, like, okay, if like that's what you think, sure, serve me some truth, but there's also a way to be factual, but also still serve it with some encouragement, and sometimes it can take just that one person, right, or that one comment to totally knock you off track, but I think it's just perfectly human and perfectly normal for that to happen. One story that I owe so much credit to in my journey, and like one thing that got me back on the horse, was this was during a season where I was taking a break, and I had broken up with music for a while and shut it out of my life, and read this article about how T-Pain went into a 4-year depression because of one thing that one person said to him. Now, mind you, this was after T-Pain's successes. This was after T-Pain, won Grammys and was a Billboard chart topper. So he had things to show for, right? When he really hit the scene, he was known for using auto-tune, and that was just his sound, that was such a sound in that era, and that was his lane. But you know what? I'm gonna spill the beans here. It was Usher.
Oh, it was? Oh my gosh.
Usher said, that you've really ruined it for people that can actually sing, right?
Oh, I think I heard about that. Yes.
And it's like, no, not really, because I think that if you can actually sing, then great, you can actually sing. You don't need auto-tune. Again, it's a different lane. But that one comment was enough for T-Pain to, spiral in not just a little bit of a funk, Like we all get in our funks. No,
Right.
that was like a 4-year depression. And again, after all of his successes, but because he really looked up to Usher, he just took it so deeply to heart. And anyway, when I read this article, I cried like a baby. It was such a breakthrough for me because I'm like, see, it's okay to be a sensitive artist, you know? You know, and I'm like, oh, I'm just a woman. I'm just getting in my feels. But no, it was so inspiring to see you have a grown man, you know, that's like, has all these accolades, and to still see that he was affected by, that one thing that one person said, you know, but then he got back on it, you know, so I was like, okay, all right, I'm done with my funk, you know what I mean? Let me get back to it. But, you know, mark my words, one of these days I'm gonna meet T-Pain. I'm putting that out in the universe because I want to share with him this story. T-Pain, if you're watching, if you're listening, I want you to know how much that story inspired me, and seriously was such a pivotal point in my career.
Music.
For the most part, actually when I had that aha, this is what I need to do, and I just need to, you know, enable myself to do it on my own. It still took a while for me to get my little like home studio set up. And then I went and purchased everything, and you're like, cool, now what? Like, now I have everything I need, I have all the tools, but now how do I use it? And that's where it was like, okay. Eventually, I just kind of, you know, reframed my thinking and was like, even if I just learn just one thing, sit down with it every day. Let's get out of my own way and sit down with it every day and just learn one thing new, you know, then in a year, I will be so much better than I was today, you know. Another beautiful metaphor that I love was like, it's like the bow and arrow, where that arrow is being pulled back. So in life, like when we're being pulled back and we deal with these setbacks or, you know, these journeys that, you know, take time, just know what happens when you let go of that arrow.
You catapult.
Oh, you know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. It was like a setback of time to kind of stay quiet, keep my head down, just learn, focus. Yeah, I had like tunnel vision, you know, on my goal, but then you release and it's like, now I'm like propelling forward in a momentum that I honestly can't keep up with. And I am a free agent. I am not under a label, which I think obviously there was a point in time where that was a good thing, that was impressive. You know, but the sad thing about the music industry right now is like so much has changed, and you know, there are countless documentaries actually where artists talk about, you know, at the end of the day, by the time the record label takes their cut and, you know, pays like all the people that have, you know, their hands in on your project, the artist isn't left with much. The bigger part is that you're left with very little control over your music and just creative direction, and it takes a lot of the art out of it. Streaming has changed everything, you know, so that now there's all these platforms obviously for independent artists, you know, to just put out stuff on their own, and too, like, technology has come such a long ways. You can be a bedroom producer. All you need is, you know, just a decent mic, and you don't necessarily need to spend all this money on high-tech studios. All of the tools now have made it a lot easier to be self-sufficient in this game. I do think about actually, like, there was even the slightest possibility of being picked up by a record label. Would I take it? You know, honestly, probably not. Because I think it's really short-lived. Record labels can blow you up, and the faster you're blown up, the quicker you can phase out at the disposal of whatever they want to do with you. This is like a long-term game for me. That was another thing too, just taking out certain expectations. I'm just like, you know what, I'm in this for the long haul. So even if I'm a little old lady, You know,
Right.
sitting there in my studio making beats. Like, this is my retirement plan. You know, 'cause expectations ruin everything. So obviously I have like, you know, big goals and want to aim high. But like, if this doesn't render any sort of results for me in, you know, the next 5 or 10 years, like, it's okay. Like, I'm going to be Grandma Daydream, you know?
I love that, Diana Graham.
Coming through at a retirement center near you. You're not going to be for everybody, and that's the thing too. I think a key part of that too is staying true to yourself and your very own authenticity as well. Because I make music for myself, you know, with the audience in mind a little bit, but but really at the end of the day, it's not really for you guys. It's for me, and I
You
think,
want to share.
Yeah, and I think that is what like has power, and I think that is what is like what is transposed like through the sound, you know?
Yeah.
I think you get a better result when you do stay true to yourself.
Yeah. What was your perception of Los Angeles before you got here, and what's the reality for you?
Again, expectations ruin everything. No, I'm just kidding. I think like most people, you're like, oh, Hollywood, you know, the glitz, the glamour, and you see like the red carpet events and what you see on reality television, which we all know is not reality. You know, just if anything.
I guess the question, were you disappointed?
I wouldn't say I was disappointed. I didn't feel like I had this harsh reality check, luckily.
Okay.
But I think, again, because I've conditioned myself to be adaptable. You know, maybe if I grew up in the same, you know, if I had come straight to LA, like straight from my hometown, I think that would have been, a little bit of a shell shock for sure.
What would you tell someone who really wants to get into the music business and, you know, want to start producing? What would you tell them? What would you tell them to start with?
Do it and don't stop.
Okay.
I mean, I know that that's like such a basic, dry, simple answer, but as Nike said, just do it. But really, and a big one for me was like I kept getting in my own way. It's so easy, like how it's funny how you can easily make excuses. Again, to resist the risk of failure or feeling uncomfortable. But once I had all of the tools and I wasn't utilizing them, it just was like, okay, you gotta really like get a clear picture of what the problem is here. And then it was like an aha moment where I'm like, dude, it's me. It's me. Like, yeah.
So when you say just do it, do you mean for them to go on YouTube and learn how to produce music? Because they may know how to like play music, of course, and sing and create their own music, but to produce their own music, I would think, like I did for this podcast, I had to go on YouTube and learn the tools and the equipment, and then there was so much training on there. So just do it.
It's definitely a big part of it. I actually did take, I mean, it was a very short but really effective, kind of almost boot camp style online production class.
Okay.
So I did take like a crash course on music production. Again, just an online class. So whatever you need, like that was something that I needed to just like get over the hump and learn what the heck I was doing. And then from there I was able to build. And even during that class, there were so many things that I would get stuck on or hung up on, and thank God, University of YouTube. And even then, sometimes it's tricky because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So sometimes it was like also very challenging to know the right way to ask the question to get the answers that you need. One thing that helped me to hop back on the bandwagon was being open to the idea of just making beats and of just producing for other artists. But then once I got that ball rolling again, I couldn't help, like my brain corresponded. It was like all of a sudden, like I had been like, you know, realigned, and like all my music cells in my body like came alive again.
It brings
and
you
like,
joy.
they're like, yes, like, and I couldn't help but to then attach, you know, lyrics to the music that I was playing, and then I was like, well, I could always sell this song, you know, I this could be a demo, but I need to record at least demo vocals in order for me to pitch these songs. Well, and then once I recorded these demo vocals, I'm like, well, gosh darn it, I really like this song, and now I want it for myself. And so, so that's kind of like how it became a slippery slope where I'm like, no, I am an artist, you know,
Yeah.
but sometimes it takes a while, and that's again why you just have to start.
The motto is never give up. And
Yeah.
Diana didn't give up, and look at her now. And she's doing great, and we're going to be watching her even further with her music. And
Thank
I'm
you.
so thankful that you're here. Thank
I am
you
so thankful
much.
to be here. This has been so much
Oh,
fun.
thank you. I really appreciate you.
I
And
appreciate you.
we appreciate you out there
Yes.
for listening to our journeys and stories. And I hope that it inspired you. Stay safe, be kind,